Andy? Andy? Blondie, where'd he go? Ooh, Vinical. Andy, is that... What?
Is it over yet?
Andy.
Is it over yet?
Andy, we still have to talk about it. I mean,
Haven't started?
Nah, buddy. It's just begun.
Welcome to Horror Movies with Friends. I'm your host, Andy Green, aka Wolfmandy Screame, and this is day 29. I didn't think I would make it. You didn't think you'd make it, whoever you are, but I did. And here we go. Day 29 of 31 movies, horror movies. 31 friends, 31 drink pairings, drinks. And let's just get right to the friend part, my favorite part. This is our first time meeting.
Indeed.
Yes, we have the Shudder Show co-creator, co-host, co-horror fanatic. I mean, you're just a horror fanatic all on your own.
Oh, I love me some horror. Though I will say the full creator, like my friend Ken Stochnik, created everything, brought me on as co-host.
Ah, okay.
I think we've been going strong for over 50 episodes now. We finished season 2 unintentionally so that he could shoot a feature in Hawaii. And then at the same time, I was planning my wedding, and then ended up disappearing for a week to Maui, just as he got back. So yeah, he was my best man and everything. But yeah, no, the whole setup of the Shudder Show, at least when we started, was that.
Oh, this is David Marlowe.
Yes, hi there. I am David Marlowe,
anyway.
Co-host of the Shudder Show. Where we do a deep dive into everything on the Shudder library. Like, Shudder doesn't sponsor us or anything. Ken was a huge fan of the library. It has
a lot of
some of the really deep down, like deep dive horror films that you just wouldn't really find anywhere else.
The ones that are for people like us that want demented, that want the gore, that want something a little bit weird and maybe unexplainable, right?
Yeah, for the longest time they had Ken Russell's The Devils, which unfortunately they removed from their library.
I still haven't seen that.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And we got like a weird hike in our viewership on that episode when Space Jam 2 decided to put The Nun amongst all of their weird characters. They won't give it a Blu-ray, but they'll put it on Space Jam 2. But
yeah, I didn't. That actually is the only cool thing I've heard about Space Jam.
Yeah,
wow,
we're like,
sorry,
thank you, Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, what movie did? What the fuck did we watch?
Oh, good sir. We watched House by the Cemetery.
And what a house it was! What a cemetery it was!
Yeah. Though the cemetery was not really. If anything, it should be called Cemetery in the House?
Yeah. We see a cemetery, but it's when our boy Norman is like somewhere else. So it has nothing, it's the cemetery, it's just sort of, the House of Dead People is what it should be called.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think Lucio Fulci quite understands how American houses work.
But maybe we'll get on his wavelength with a little bit of vino. Would you like some morning wine?
Oh God, I would love some morning wine. I'm still running on Maui time, so mimosas are still running through my veins. So
this is going to be before coffee for me today. This is the final Vinivore selection. This is a woman-owned winery and wine store. They have all kinds of wineries and wines that are women-owned, women-created. This is one of their own. And it is a supermoon red. I can probably cut to a photo,
that
but
sweet close-up.
yeah, ooh, that's the bottom. And this is 100% centesimo. No, sorry. God,
Sounds very Italian.
Yeah, exactly. I said it very Italian. Centesimino, which is still sounds like that. And yeah, so this is an Italian grape. That's why I chose it.
Oh,
and also
good.
it's got a moon and snakes and all
those
sorts
themes.
of stuff.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, and this is my least favorite part where I have to open a wine on camera. Let's see how we do. So far, so good. Ooh. I don't have the right angle on this.
I'm gonna have to make you like a
Ooh,
bottle opener / wine stop at some point then.
Yeah, oh no, that felt good. Woo!
Nice!
Alright, let's pour for
Oh,
camera,
oh.
and we'll get the luscious liquid.
Get a nice deep pour.
Say when.
Oh, keep going. We're gonna have to talk some Lucio Fulci. So it's and there we go.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's a good pour. That was a good pour. The rest of the wine is yours, my friend. That's your parting gift. So that was why I was trying to not pour so much. Let's see, how did I do? How did I match you? Wow. Oh, maybe even a little bit more.
It's for the best. I'm sure to put this in a hidden compartment in my truck. So.
If you don't want to drive with it.
Though I don't know. I've been. God forbid, a cop's gonna pull me over now for driving too slow. Like. On my honeymoon, literally, we rented a car, we drove out of the airport, and I immediately got pulled over by a Maui cop because the roads are much less crowded in Maui.
And what do you do?
And I'm from LA, and when I see an open road, we just book it to book it to 80, pull me over right away. So now I'll probably just get pulled over for going too slow.
Too slow. Well, we should all go a little slower.
Yeah, slow down, people.
Except when you're about to get murdered by Dr. Freudstein.
Yeah. Though to be fair, people in this movie were going way too slow, and that's probably where they ended up.
I agree. Cheers, David.
Cheers.
This is fun. All right, what do we get on the nose here? Oak.
Shows you what I know about wine. I didn't even smell it. I just took a drink right away. I'm like, you know what? Get it in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not bad. Full bodied, is that what you said?
That's tart, but
it's not as sweet as I expected.
It's not sweet at all. It's dry, but not like it kind of makes me pucker a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a pucker. It wakes you up. This is, pre-brushing my teeth, sorry, but I was like, I'm not gonna brush my teeth before I have wine. Didn't want to affect my taste buds.
I made sure to do it nice and early this morning, so that way I'm like, you know what? Get to the point where you can enjoy it.
I had a mint. That was my in-between. I was like, I don't want David to
your
judge
breakfast
my breath. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It has, it has a dark red fruit, a berry, I would say.
That's great.
Like maybe some cherry in there.
Curious and graceful as you move through the world. Sometimes suspicious of the overly complicated. This is a Fulci wine right here. This is a true lover of nature and all it has to offer. So flick that tongue and drink that wine.
Lick that tongue.
Yep. Lovely.
For Freddie. Yeah, this is really good. And it's a natural wine, of course. All the wines at Vinavore are also natural wine. We only do natural here. And same with Lucio Fulci, the director of this 1981
That was as natural as you can get.
Yeah. I don't even know how to start. Basically, a family moves as they do in movies, they've moved to New England, and it's always a mistake.
Yeah, it's like apparently it's like they're it's for work, kind of like.
Oh yeah.
This is where, and I've heard a lot of this, is that there's a lot of notes of The Shining here. Like Lucio Fulci was. I feel like most horror movies like that involve anything supernatural, they always say they're like, oh, I was going for a little bit of a Shining.
Oh yeah,
I'm just like,
sure, throw that.
This was a real no. They're gonna they're traveling to this. They're gonna live in this house for work. It's gonna be for 6 months. He's bringing his wife and kid. The wife doesn't necessarily want to go there.
Neither does
And
Bob.
the kid sees dead people. So
is that Is May dead? Probably.
Oh, May.
Yeah. May's been dead for a while.
Yeah, her little. Which can we just
Oh,
May,
yeah.
May has the best looking out a window face.
Oh, yeah. And I was just like, that's, yeah.
You
Open-mouthed. She was just like,
like you can signal it. Like apparently there's a signal where if like things are not okay, it's like a
oh, is that what you
it's like
do?
a silent signal. Like oh how you doing? Like it's like a fake like behind somebody like make it like so.
Yes.
If there's like a domestic violence thing apparently where that person can do a quick signal is like call for help.
Oh, that's the...
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's like May had the first part,
Mm.
but that's why nobody.
That's
could
why
help her.
Bob
She didn't finish the
Bob
thing.
didn't know.
I told you very clearly.
Well, I mean, she did say don't go inside like 8 times.
Don't go inside!
And yeah, so she was warning Bob the whole
And then
time.
God, there's like, why are you here? I told you literally not to. It's like
Let's just play.
adults just do what they want to do.
Yes, they don't listen. Bob's voice is so good. The dub of Bob is like very high pitched.
Someone's in here, Mommy!
Hi, Bob. It's like
Yeah.
I loved Bob so much. He had
Which can we
like
just talk about what an amazing name Bob is for a small, blonde, long-haired child?
Yes.
Hey, Bob.
He has very feminine lips, and like I mean, there's no judgment. I just like he is a very striking young boy for this movie.
Yeah.
And the voice just is this like
Straight from the mountains of Switzerland.
yeah,
Like,
and it's oh
Oh, like so. I think one thing that audiences need to know before they watch an Italian, like this film or any Italian horror film in general, because Lucio Fulci, like if folks don't know him, I would say like Lucio Fulci is an auteur.
Yes.
Like he is good at what he does, in the sense that everything is intentional. But like Italian horror films are almost all dubbed because like all of these actors, even though this was shot in the United States, was all shot with Italian actors, and in Italian films in general, they don't all speak English or even Italian, and it's kind of they just let them speak. The directors will usually let the actors speak in whatever language they're comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, it's going to get dubbed over in multiple languages.
right.
So you keep thinking like something's off with like the mouthing, like no, like it's all dubbed. Some of these actors speak English better than others. Some of them don't speak English at all. The kids, given that child actors are not the best actors, like it's like knowing that before you go in is good. But like upon watching this last night, it was super late and I had to pull up the script. I'm just like, wait, these pauses are driving me up a wall. Like, why are they taking such long? This can't be intentional. It's completely intentional.
I love Italian films for everything you just said, because a horror film should be unsettling, and the dub is unsettling on its own, because it's just sort of wrong and not even trying to be very... It's not a good dub, right?
No.
And that's part of it, and
Yeah.
it fills me with glee. It makes me feel like I shouldn't be here either. This movie shouldn't exist. What's wrong? We're on a different frequency in Italy. And that's why we're trying to drink this wine, which is totally getting me there.
We're trying to get up to your level. Like we're trying to sophisticate ourselves.
Yeah, well, and this isn't a very sophisticated movie, but yes.
But we feel like we got sophisticated. Yeah.
Sophisticated. Well, so yeah, like the work stuff is sort of, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's not as intense as The Shining in terms of like, oh, he's writing and doing this book. He's like investigating, I guess, a former colleague, Peterson, who died. Like, didn't he have like a mistress? He killed himself.
Yeah, he
whatever.
killed his mistress and then killed himself.
Yes.
In your opinion, why would a man like him slaughter the woman he loved and then hang himself?
Well, I don't know. Human mind.
Yeah.
To try to actively follow the plot of an Italian horror film is
It's not the point.
it's not the point at all. Like most Italian horror films and giallo films in general, they are more showy than telly. The narrative is rarely the point, and it's usually like they'll start on one thing and it doesn't go anywhere. It's usually like a murder mystery, but when you find out who the murderer is, rarely is it something that's connected through something the main character found out about.
Right, it's just some sort of like insane trauma thing outside of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you're like, of course, because such and such was killed on a Wednesday, which was never specified by anyone.
But Wednesday, the Doom Wednesday, yeah. And this, there's some shit about like, Norman is recognized in town, like, you've been here before with your daughter. And I was like, wait, is that Meg?
I can understand why you might think Bob might be a girl.
Yeah, have you heard Bob talk? Yeah, that's true. But it was sort of like, was that like, basically they just...
What a handsome daughter you have.
Yeah, are they just running out of, like, they only can recognize, like, 2 Americans at once, and I know we're all in America, but it's just sort of like, it's the same family that just keeps getting recycled and killed at the Freudstein house. Is that sort of what we're meant to, like... Or are they already ghosts?
Yeah. From reading the script, most of the characters within the town are already ghosts. Like, at least this is... Now, this is my interpretation of it. This is what I think's kind of been happening. Like, I think the reason why, for example, the au pair, Anne, doesn't really communicate with the wife is that she's already dead. And she's been killed multiple times.
Yeah, because we see her mannequin get beheaded. Bob sees that before we even see Anne.
Yeah.
We just like, whether it's a premonition or just like, just a cool set piece, that's what it is.
Which I used to think, like, God, that is a very impressive, detailed, like, mannequin.
And I was just like, well, I bet we're going to see that person.
Well, even though it's which is kind of what I was saying in the sense that, like, everything that Fulci does is intentional.
Yeah. On like the bat scene, I just want to talk about the bat scene because what was your favorite moment?
It's a real vampire's kiss moment.
Oh yeah, it was just so long, and that's what I really love. It's like drawn out, and it's just the noise forever. It's just like this bad, bat toy thing.
It's almost like a Sam Raimi flick.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like where it's just like more blood than is needed, and they just
required at the same time.
And the scene goes on for far longer than it should.
And that's almost kind of like, it's like a joke that goes on too long and you're sort of like, stop. But then once it goes a little bit further, you're like, oh, keep going. So let's see how long
this Bob get more and more traumatized.
As the blood spatters all over his face.
Now, if it were a Sam Raimi flick, like as soon as he pulls the bat off, his wound just...
Yes,
or
his hand would have came off with it.
Yes.
Like, yeah, and then the hand would have moved or whatever. Yeah.
Which, terrible dad, by the way.
Norman's a shitty dad.
Norman is a shit dad. Like,
list all the reasons.
The end, like, let's just talk about the end where he almost kills his son twice. Like, the monster,
I wanted that to happen.
The main zombie just like he's asking, like, let me out. They're trying to get, he's like, I'm gonna grab the axe that, of course, was sitting there this whole time.
A very Jack
never referred to, but like, I'm gonna grab the axe.
Yeah, that's true. It was never.
Like, you should know it was there. Like, just like the gun was on the wall the whole time. You gotta use it.
Yeah, they forgot that scene. There's no axe in this movie until that moment.
But he goes to chop down the door, and of course, like, comes like an inch from his son's face because the monster just pushes his face against the door because that monster knows what's up.
Yeah, Dr. Freudstein.
Dr. Freudstein. We'll talk about that name in a second.
Yeah. That's true.
But then hits again, like almost hits the back of his hand, and then like chops the monster's hand off by accident. Comes out with a bloody blade, and then he's like, "Oh no, let's go again."
Yeah, let's keep going.
Like nothing wrong here.
Well, I mean, at that point, it's like, well, Bob's already dead. I gotta just see who's, or if it is Bob, he's already screwed.
It's almost like Norman doesn't want Bob to make it. He's like, "Oh no, Bob, we gotta save Bob."
Even his wife, Lucy, doesn't even really
He's never in a hurry to help any of his family.
Not at all. There's so many moments where she's just like, I found a tomb. You're just going to have to get used to it. That's his response when he finds a tomb in the house.
And his whole thing that I don't think Fulci knows how American houses work. Like, she's like, it's bad enough that we're, like, living next to a cemetery, but to find out that a cemetery's in our own home is like, well, that's just how American houses are. American house, like, that is not at all what American house, like...
Maybe he's saying that America is a cemetery.
I have a tomb in my one-bedroom apartment, but that is only to hide evidence. Like, that is strictly evidence hiding.
Well, I think that's what Fulci is saying.
It's more of a place of convenience.
We have Dexter here today. No, I think maybe he's even saying, we don't even see a cemetery, but America's a cemetery. It's like Poltergeist. Everything we build is on top of the deaths or trauma of other people. So, yay!
It's like, how did they accomplish this? We just threw human suffering and pain at it as long as possible.
Yeah, build on top of it. Add another floor. You're fine. Ignore the crying. Ignore it. Or I guess investigate. But...
Yeah, which, and I gotta say, like, that crying after a while got so tedious. Yeah, I was like, what is that noise in the background?
I liked it.
Like,
I like this movie more than
Fulci,
you. I knew it.
pull it back on the audio, bud.
Never pull it back. Add it more. I mean, that's what giallo is. It's like, really, it's Italian horror opera. You know, it's just like the music.
Oh.
This one doesn't have as much like Goblin or, like some of the Argento ones. I feel like those have the best in terms of score and music, but this still has.
Yeah, and
its
the
moment.
beginning of this, like, goes pretty heavy on the synth.
Yes. Yeah.
Score.
Like with the title sequence,
The
basically.
title sequence, and then tits.
Oh,
With
yeah.
a woman,
that's
with
right.
a woman whose shorts are too tight.
Yes.
Her ribs are like right over that thing.
That's
Like-
right. We do go right to naked and then murder.
Yeah, I mean, as Italians are wont to do.
Yes.
Naked, then murder. But yeah, it's like, well, I will say, like, this film, as well as like most of his films, like, aren't like, they don't deliver on the spooky and the ooky, but they deliver on the squishy ishy. Like, this is a
Squishy.
wet film. Like, it is just the kill. Like, the kills are solid.
Yeah, they are.
They are so good. And that first kill.
With the
Like-
woman. Yeah, that's when I was in. I was like, oh, we're
I'm
gonna
like-
get the knife through the mouth.
And I'm like, okay, it's like, we're like, I get it. Steve's dead. This better be going somewhere. It's like, 'cause she's like,
Yeah, we don't know where Steve is.
yeah. It's like, I think we've established that Steve's not coming.
Steve got the fuck out of there. He's
Yeah.
Norman.
Oh yeah, no, it's like he finished. He's good. He's gone.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, no, I agree. That's probably what Steve did.
Yeah, but then of course, like, just the knife in the back of the head through that, like, that is such a, like, just the cut, the editing of that was amazing.
It was brutal, and that is the moment where I'm in, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I really like Italian horror movies, and I was sort of letting people choose / criteria make the choices for this month, but I was like, I have to at least have one Italian horror movie.
And have you seen Zombie?
I actually don't know if I have.
Because Lucio Fulci's, like if you look on IMDb, he is best known for Zombie 2, which is one of our first episodes. I had not seen it before we did it. And that was the thing, like, in our podcast, like, Ken would pick 2 films for me to choose between that I hadn't seen, and then he would take a deep dive and
Sounds
tell me
like
about it.
you're like me. You like to be the new. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like I love horror, but like Ken is an encyclopedia. This man is stupid smart. Like he
Stupid smart.
he didn't become a cinematographer for nothing. Like, and he's literally like the job that he did. They're bringing him back as a cinematographer in Hawaii for almost a whole year. Like, the dude knows his stuff.
Yeah, he's filming this right now.
Exactly.
You can see.
Hey, buddy. It's like, no, you stay there.
And he turned down the job to just do this.
But no, like if you want to see
At
a
his
zombie
finest.
get in an underwater fight with a shark,
Yeah.
with a real shark, mind you, like
Oh,
a
yeah.
real
I
shark,
didn't
like
know.
an actor put in full zombie makeup,
I thought-
weighed down in the oceans of America, and
Yes.
then made to fight a shark.
Yeah, I do want to see that.
Then
That's
you,
all I
then
want
you
to
need
see.
to see zombies. Though technically it is Zombie 2. It is technically a sequel to Dawn of the Dead.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Technically a sequel.
I love a good time.
Like, I love it. Like, most of his films are technically part of a thing. This, like, House by the Cemetery is technically a trilogy. But it's like the final film in like a trilogy of
City of the Living Dead and the Beyond.
City of the Living Dead and the Beyond, which I've seen both, and this is the first time that I'd seen this one, which I'm like, I have to read the script.
Yeah, this was the first time I'd seen that one, but I had seen the other ones too. But like, it's not like you need to know anything about the other movies at all. I didn't like.
No.
When you came over, you're like, "This is part of a trilogy." Just like, oh.
Exactly. Like, the doctor, like Dr. Freudstein, which is supposed to be a combination between like Freud and Frankenstein. Like, you know, there's a very id element that the director wants to go down.
Do you think there's Nazi stuff happening? Because he's like, he does evil experiments, and also he's just sort of haunting. It's another thing that's haunting maybe Italy more than us. So that's like the.
Well, I think this was this 1970? I'm gonna
81.
81. Oh, so we're really far. Yeah. So this. God, yeah. Okay, so 81. So
I mean, it's obviously post that by a lot, but he's, you know, was around during that time, I think.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. No, he was definitely around during that time. At least. I don't know, don't quote me on that. Ken would know more. He'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, it actually might, like, they might have died in 1915, now that I'm thinking. Like, I'm remembering Mrs. Freudstein's grave. We see it, like, a million times. What was did you have any favorite moments from this movie? Or I mean, you said it's squishy-ishy in a wet movie. We talk about the first kill that sort of sets the tone. Is that still the high watermark, or do we reach it anywhere else?
Like, I do think the kills, like, actually got better. Like, I love the decapitation scene of the au pair, and which I also believe, like, there's, apparently this film got cut down. Like,
really?
Fulci cut it down because he, like, the gore sequences weren't what he necessarily wanted, so he cut it down. So this, like, so there's supposed to be more gore.
This is restraint.
This is yeah.
But that is another thing where just clearly he does have this vision, and it's not just about the gore. Even though you watch it and you're like, it's kind of about the gore, but it's like clearly there's enough for him. Like, there is a line that he's fine. His line is different than an American filmmaker, an American viewer normally. Yeah. Not us. Like, this is I want to go past that line.
Though, like, Italian horror films back then were more reminiscent of old Hollywood, and just kind of like not necessarily the grindhouse of like horror back then, but it was very campy. And embraced the camp sort of as the 80s were getting into more, not nuanced, but more complicated horror and cooler effects, like different like makeup effects started to, different techniques started to take hold.
Right.
In the 80s, like you had like the type of like latex that looked more like real skin. So like he really embraced that sort of gore element, but like I love, not the point where Anne gets murdered, but where the woman who sells the house gets murdered.
Miss Giddleston.
Yeah, she gets stabbed multiple times, and then in the neck, and then it's
brutal.
Yeah,
the third one where it's just like a geyser, sort of like a sprinkler that's been broken.
Then there's that wonderful little moment where like the wife comes in and asks, like Anne is literally cleaning up the blood.
Yes,
and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she goes, "Oh, I made coffee." And that's not how you transition as a regular person.
There's multiple moments where people are just doing insane things and they're ignored. Like Anne, it's always Anne actually.
Yeah.
Like you go and Anne's like finagling with that door, the attic door, which is where Freudstein, and they don't mention anything about it. It's like, oh hi Anne. But yeah, that's the best thing. She's just mopping up the blood of a previous murder. And
it's like, oh, I made coffee. And then she just like, oh, great coffee.
Yeah. Well, and as a watcher and as an enjoyer of coffee, that's the one thing that might distract me from a murder scene.
And they went like classical drip style. Like,
oh yeah, no, it looked good.
It looked like some great Italian coffee. There's the whole point where like Norman like walks in and like she's trying to get into the basement, trying to unlock the mine so you can go into the basement of the id.
Ooh, wow, look at
like
you.
that whole thing.
Yeah.
But then it's just like never really brought. It just kind of cuts to things that aren't related, and people seem to behave like things didn't happen.
It feels like maybe a trauma response or like sort of just how our brains almost work when you're confronted with trauma or fear. Like you're so scared, I can't actually fucking talk about the fact that you're mopping up a dead body right now. I'm just like, oh, you have coffee? Okay, that's better.
Yeah,
that's easier for me to deal with.
Like I need to get some caffeine in me. I'm seeing things.
Yeah, exactly. Like this can't be real.
It's like what are you doing? I made coffee. Yeah, probably a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I don't have to deal with the reality of my existence where my husband is probably fucking Anne, the ghost babysitter, and he's a terrible human anyway. He cares more about this work, but he's not even a good... He burns the tape for no reason of the guy who's like saying all this important shit.
There's a mystery happening here. Can we also talk about the librarian?
We can talk about anything you want.
The weird... Oh my god.
He's the best!
That's where Peterson hanged himself.
The one... That is one of those cases where I'm like, where is this going? What purpose does this serve? And it's where he's like the guy who's supposed to show him where all the records are. It's like, well, I do this as my job. Here are the things. They're like, I have questions for you. What? Like the most suspicious of suspicious people. Either that or he's a weird pervert. Like he gave off both vibes.
He gave off a lot of vibes. He was that actor. I hope he's alive, and I really want him to be in every movie that I make.
Like, yeah.
He's good at whatever he's doing. But yeah, he's just like, oh yeah, I just have to walk the halls. Go back to your thing. He just shows up to be creepy for no reason.
He's the guy on Law and Order that definitely did the murder.
Yes. But in here, he's just a red herring.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's just, he's the glass of wine, there's a lot of distractions.
Yes, there are.
Do you think Fulci has ADD?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, what's so weird is that this was trimmed down after being extended because it was too short. Like, Fulci didn't like the original screenplay, apparently, which I can't remember the names of, like, the writers or anybody else outside of Fulci.
We'll put it down.
I know. Yeah, it'll, like, IMDb exists for a reason. Use it. But no, like, apparently the lead script writer, who was written for Fulci multiple times, like, he wrote it, Fulci didn't like it, he brought somebody to, like, you know, oomph it up.
Yeah.
And then another guy to oomph it down. You know, one guy leaves because he's going to work on other projects, and then literally there's a guy who comes in almost every Fulci movie to be like, no, Fulci wants this, and the guy didn't do this, so I'm going to cut this down, I'm going to cut this down, I'm going to trim off the fat here.
Yeah, there's a very lean movie. No fat in this movie.
Yeah,
well, I guess there isn't, because it's sort of just, like you said, there's no connective tissue. It's just sort of bananas.
Yeah.
Like over and over.
And kind of like a giallo, like it has little essences of like a giallo flick, whereas like you never really see the killer until the end. Like it's always the hands that you see, but usually in a giallo film, it's a gloved hand that's stabbing somebody.
Yes, it's a very POV. It's very like we are the killer in a way.
Yes. Yeah. There's, but like also there's a point in the film where like towards the end where there's all these glowing eyes in the basement.
Very Suspiria, White Zombie even. But yeah, like, and those were I love a good disembodied. I mean, obviously you don't see the rest of them, but they're just sort of they're weird little eyes,
and they're chilling.
Yeah, very effective.
But the zombie has no eyes.
Well, that's something different.
Yeah. I'm like, but wait. Oh, okay, all right. Guess we're moving on. That was me the whole film. But wait,
if you're looking for answers, this isn't
Italian film. Isn't where you're gonna find them.
There's no answers in any fucking movie. All right, just more questions.
And we're all looking for answers at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's why we.
This dog barking in the distance is looking for answers.
Well, I mean, there's just a body right by him right now, and everyone's just walking by because they haven't had their coffee yet.
Exactly. LA, what can I say?
We're speeding past them, right? We got somewhere to be. Yeah. We don't care about the lost dog and the murder scene.
So how did you like this film, like, as a whole?
As a whole, well, to me, normally, Italian movies, I'm on a gummy. I'll admit. But I wasn't.
Same. I wasn't necessarily on a gummy, but I indulged. I imbibed in different ways.
This time I did not. But this whole month has sort of been like my brain is fractured in different ways.
How are you doing towards the end of all of this?
I don't know. Like I'm amazed that I like actually sound reasonably cogent in terms of like I had to watch this in 3 different
one a day.
stages.
Lily's patient as hell.
Well, yeah, that's why she's working as I'm doing this.
It's like, thank God I'm a teacher and I work on weekdays.
Yes, exactly. And it wouldn't work without that. Yeah. But yeah, I watched this in 3 different viewings, which is not ideal. But it actually sort of, the fragmented nature of the movie, it kind of worked. Like I sort of watched an act at a time. And this morning was Act 3, where we're just getting to the crazy. And well, it's actually, I think the last half was today. And so,
What's your favorite one so far?
oh, favorite of the movies?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the best film is Train to Busan. I think that's the best film that the one that I just saw, and that'll be next episode, is The Invisible Man, the remake. I thought that was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good and terrifying.
Don't watch Peninsula. That's all I gotta say. Is
Is that another Train to Busan? Yeah.
It's the same director, and literally they just gave him a larger budget, and I think it's a problem that happens with a lot of solid directors who work on a shoestring budget, who then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you're good at what you do. Here's all the things that make you lazy.
Yeah, you get less creative that way.
Exactly. And so I'll often find that that's where, a lot of really good directors go to die, as a larger budget.
That also, it just sort of, it's not like they're selling out at all, because I don't think that is. It's like, this is now they're getting their money, but it's also like that first movie or their first couple, the one that makes them hit is really, that's the most like, why we're in this town, why we're doing these things. It's like, that's their heart in the movie, and in some ways it's hard to recapture that. I think the best filmmakers are able to do that over and over, or have other things. I'm not saying, I don't know, the director I'm sure has other things in him. But I think that sometimes is the thing. Like your best movie sometimes is the first, or the first hit. So you asked me how I like the film, and I would say I gave it 4 stars on my letterbox, and that's very generous because I'm very but it's like it's an Andy movie. It's just insane, and it doesn't have answers. And yes, it doesn't necessarily make sense, but that's not why I'm going to see this movie. I think it hits it checks the boxes of what I want, which is interesting, creative, gruesome deaths, and also I don't know where it's going the entire time, and I like that because American movies, I almost always know where I'm going. Yeah, and it's surprising when it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm a huge, for example, I'm a huge comic book nerd. I love me some Marvel so bad, but Marvel films are certainly predictable.
Right, there's a formula, and that's why they work to a certain extent, but that's why there's also a ceiling. Yeah,
even the artsy films in America are pretty predictable, but I don't know, I think. Because your 4 is out of what? 4 out of...
4 out of 5 is but if you think about that, that's a B. 4 out of 5 is 8 out of 10. Yeah. And that doesn't, 4 stars sounds like an insanely positive review, but to me, it's that's about right. Yeah.
I think in terms of how this ranks based on
other Fulci?
Other Fulci films, I would say a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10 would be pretty silly. It's certainly not his best. I would argue Zombie is his best. I would say it's best to watch this film knowing what you're getting into. If you understand what Italian horror is like, then you're going to have a good time. If you're just oh, this trailer looked fun, let's check it out, then you might come away less thrilled. On our podcast, our whole thing is we really try our best. If we pick a film and it doesn't necessarily hit home with us, Our objective is not to shit on it, because we're wasting our time. We're being hey, we watched this thing, so you don't have to. Yeah. Don't watch it. This is crappy. No. That's so easy.
Why didn't it work for you? And it's more about you, probably.
It's more talking about the craft of it. Cool. What in the narrative doesn't work, but what does, importantly, work. Where's what was it? We did a film, The Soul Collector, which arguably is not the best film. So it almost becomes a fun challenge to be okay, well, what worked? What in it? Where's the director's heart in this?
Yes. Where did it go wrong, or how can we fix it, or how? That's you, right? It's not it's not your movie, but it's
oftentimes a film goes wrong because it's the production's fault. Because a producer came in and said, I think I have some good ideas.
Right. Exactly.
Look, I want to impress this girl that I brought on to set with me, so could you, I work, for example, my day job is a scenic carpenter. I moved out here originally to be an actor, but, I eventually became a scenic carpenter.
Wow.
And one of the things,
that's a good journey.
One of the most valuable lessons I've learned is that the biggest competition to creativity is ego. We were working on a set, we were installing a set, and we were working hours on this one specific piece. and it was just like, it was heavy to lift, it was awkward, like, and a couple hours later it got fixed in place. Producer comes up, takes a look at it, and he's like, yeah, I feel like that needs to be that needs to be more centered. We gotta have it a little bit more in the center. Which, if something's in the center, it's in the center. You don't need to move it anymore.
Right.
So, without arguing the point, our lead installer just goes, you know what, Phil? Great. Like, give us a couple, like, give us about an hour. We'll have it moved over. And he's like, guys, don't move. And he just like takes his drill, makes a couple of drill sounds, takes his hammer, hammers a couple of things. And then like we're all meanwhile like on our phones hanging out. He's like, okay. He's like, guys, grab the run. He's like, all right, Phil, like we think we got it. And he comes back, is perfect. Like, you guys got it. And then like he walks away. We're just like, what is that? And he's like, I just taught you the most valuable lesson you'll ever learn in this industry. Most of the times people want you to do something because they want to feel like they're making a decision.
That
like it is
exactly.
So when you see
problem.
like a film where you're just like, why would they choose to like ego, baby? Like,
and they actually listen to that, right?
Yeah.
Like that guy's whoever that was a genius.
A good director knows how to say no, and a good director knows how to, if anything, like also like in editing too. Like I had a friend who literally like when he edits his first cut, he holds the shot longer than it's supposed to be held. On purpose, so when the director comes in or the producer comes in to like take a look at it, he's gonna look at the obvious and be like, "You need to trim that down. You need to trim this down." And he's like, "Got it." And then the things that matter to that editor stay in.
That's really cool.
It's such a it's a real nuance that I think like once you work in this industry long enough, you kind of understand.
Like you have to, and yeah, we come here to do art, but it's really the business, and then you just sort of have to like Trojan horse your shit in there, and also like sort of find a way to say yes to the people that like need their ego soothed without actually doing any changes.
Because ultimately, it's like, sure, buddy, sure,
yeah,
you run along, Bob.
Thank you, Dad.
Yeah. Of course, Bob, you're doing a good job. All your parents are dead.
Oh, man. Does that mean Bob's dead too, or is he a...
Oh, he's definitely dead.
I will say, it would have been cooler and more fucked up if his dad actually had just axed him in the head.
I agree. And I've listened to a couple of reviews where nobody likes Bob. Like...
I love Bob. Yeah. I think Bob's terrible. I love Bob.
Yeah. But the reason why you love Bob are the reasons why people hate Bob.
Well, yeah. Well, so that's what makes me me. Yeah.
But I think most people would you know what? That would have been a solid kill. you really wasted an opportunity there, Fulci.
I mean, he played with us because we thought maybe that would happen, and so at least he did half of it, and maybe that was the restraint part of him, which is interesting because like you watch this movie and there. And when you're telling me the stories about how he's cutting stuff, it doesn't feel like restraint is in his vocabulary,
exactly.
But it is.
Well, it's kind of like, you've seen the movie The Raid, right?
Actually, I haven't. Yeah.
Oh, great. Oh.
Yeah.
There's a point where he's running away from everybody, obviously, and he and a buddy of his hide in the walls, kind of Matrix style.
Right.
And so there's a point where a guy kind of gets maybe they're in here. It's he keeps stabbing his machete through the wall, and eventually goes across his leg and slowly. But he has to keep his composure. I'm just I feel like that's where The Raid got this
But that's really good, because that's an in between, but in a really clever way.
Exactly, But I agree, that would have been a solid way for Bob to go.
Or it could have just been a way to mangle Bob. You know, what if it just did exactly like that, but it was just basically sliced off a chunk of Bob.
Yeah.
You know, and then get to see a chunk of Bob.
But I get it. In cinema, it's tough to kill kids. You can show a dead kid, but you can't. It's tougher to kill a kid.
That's an interesting segue to the end of the movie. It has a Henry James quote. We will never, you will never know if children are monsters or children. I might have mixed the order, but who cares?
Yeah.
What do you think about that quote?
I thought it popped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just God, you really don't like kids.
I had to think about it. I thought about it while showering, and I was just okay. Because I was I gotta
go. You're I need one.
It was 9:30, I haven't showered, you're about to be here. I'm okay, I gotta shower. And I was okay.
You watched that this morning.
Oh yeah, it's a great morning.
Oh
film.
yeah. Oh, this is fresh.
Oh yeah. Ooh yes. This is fresh. This is really good wine, by the way.
Yeah. The more I drink this, by the way, if you guys can get your hands on this, like the more I drink this, the better it gets. Which I don't know if that's by design, but
I mean, I feel like that's most wine, but in a way, it feels reminiscent to an Italian film too, because at first you're sort of not, your tongue's not there, and then you're like, oh,
it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, and then, or like I think anyone would drink this and know that it's like a good wine. But I think if you can get your tongue to get that mouth chemistry in the right way, then you're like, ooh, this is an elevated experience because I'm in. Yeah. You have to sort of buy in. And I think that's almost with most horror, or at least good horror that's maybe a little off kilter. That's like not what you necessarily wanted. You have to sort of be open to going where you don't want to go.
Exactly. Which I feel like if you're watching an Italian horror film, already at least you're pretty open.
Yes.
To new things in your sphere. Where you're like, you know what? I want to experience a classic. I think the things that people tend to forget when they're watching an older film is like, it was just so much harder.
That's
like,
true.
There's no this isn't in digital. This is all on film, on physical film. There's no CG. There's no everything is practical, and it's like we
beautiful.
We get things come so easy now, in that sometimes diving into, especially horror films of the past that are foreign.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see where people were at then and there.
Yes.
So I think Fulci performs in spades. Also, granted, if you don't like the story, A, you're missing the point of an Italian horror film.
Yeah,
but B,
it's atmosphere.
But what you're not getting in story, you're getting in kills, you're getting in
you're getting in visuals.
Rarely is an Italian horror film boring.
Right. No.
That is a tragic thing.
Yes. Boring is worse than bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like what you're saying about your podcast. If something doesn't hit you, it's more interesting to figure out why it is not working, rather than just boring is just that's the death of cinema. That's the death of art.
Yeah.
That's the death of society. It's just
Yeah, if Ken and I end up picking a film that ends up being boring, we will usually take it back and we'll pick a different film.
Right.
Because that's I think that's the biggest crime that a film can make, is that it's boring.
Although sometimes I will say that comes from us, the audience, why it's boring.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Or how it hits us, or when we watch it. That's, to me, a movie, me rewatching a movie, and it took me a while to realize rewatching movies is so important to recapture in a different way. I can totally the second time I saw The Love Witch, for instance, I fucking loved it. The first time I watched it, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, it's it is one of those films where upon first viewing, and when you're watching it with somebody who's just kind of okay, I'll watch this with you, they're probably not going to enjoy it because they don't, their brains didn't pay for the ticket necessarily.
This makes me think of, I don't, force is the wrong word, but I was like, Mom, Dad, you gotta watch Suspiria. Let's put it on. And I put it on because I was just this is Lily and
Dad's this is artsy fartsy shit.
No. Dad leaves within 3 minutes because he just can't handle it. It's too graphic, it's too much, and what's the point of this violence?
Yeah. I feel a lot of our parents are like that. They're unless they're the ones that introduce us to this stuff, they're
right.
My mother would never watch Suspiria.
And there's more stuff going on there, but it's very loud. And it's sort of distracting. It just sort of seems like it's about the blood. And even when we're talking about the kills in this movie and oh, how cool is it? Sometimes it gives this allure that's why we're watching, is because we just want to see people die. And it's not. That's not. That's just.
No, it's
part of it.
when I was a kid, because I loved horror since I was a kid. My parents divorced at 4, and so when you're a dad that's newly divorced, and he was much older than my mom too, so But his whole thing is great, now I'm a bachelor and I have nothing to entertain young kids. So, but obviously all their fun stuff is at mom's place, and so I need to be somehow the favorite parent in some way. So I got to see Jurassic Park because of my dad. I got to go see, I was in 2nd grade when I saw Starship Troopers. In the theater.
Hey, I saw it in theater. Wait, did I see it in theater with my dad? I remember it being
there was
a...
as a kid, which is again another like thing what you were saying that like you need to watch a film multiple times. Like when that movie came out, it got fucking panned. People hated it, and they completely missed the point of that film.
Yes.
Like
Verhoeven films are...
Verhoeven films. Rarely are they what you expect or want them to be, but they are still fucking art.
Yeah, even and especially Showgirls.
Yeah. Oh, Ken is an adamant Showgirls fan, and I used to work at a children's theater where
that's a great.
I know.
Children's theater.
Where what's her face? I'm blanking on the actress's name from Showgirls.
Oh, God, the woman from Saved by the Bell, right?
Yes,
yeah, we know who she is.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm completely.
She's watching this and really fucking upset.
You
can look if you like.
Well, I doubt it because she is a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
Like her kid went to there, and like I actually got to have conversations with her.
Aww.
And she like could not be sweeter.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's just somebody who like knew what kind of movie she was in and embraced it. And Paul, like everyone, it went over everyone else's fucking head. Like every audience member that saw it at the time was just like, what the f- is this? Because this isn't what it was marketed as.
Right. It's really goes into expectations, which is like, and that's on us. That's on the marketing team. It's on like, well, yeah, because the people with money don't understand the film, and the only way that they think people will watch it is if we can put it into a box and sell it as whatever the fuck they sell Showgirls as. I was too young, like whenever it was marketed, to know how it was.
Yeah, and a Fulci film is hard to put in a box.
There's no fucking box.
No, the only box that exists for Fulci is Fulci.
Ooh, the tomb.
Like it's yeah. So this is one of those films like where upon like viewing it, like understand where it's coming from and like the time, like, and if you know what you're in store for, if you have a general idea of what kind of film you're in store for, it's gonna be a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, it's a ride. It's a ride to go on, and I think that's part of it. Like you buy the ticket, and then if you're tall enough to ride it, enjoy. Do you want to rub some belly?
Oh my god, I want to rub this kitty belly. Oh.
It's a good ballet.
So sweet.
Such a good ballet.
Look at those pretty eyes.
I think
You make a very pretty mannequin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you would. We could behead you. Yeah.
Everyone's like, who hasn't watched filmmaking? Like, what the fuck?
We're just talking about beheading kitties. That's not gonna go viral?
No?
Oh.
Oh god. Oh, the algorithm's got us. Oh boy.
Well, David, I mean, we could go on forever.
Oh yeah.
And,
I could talk about this for days.
Well, and what I think it has proved is that this is not going to be the first movie that we will watch together. I mean, we didn't watch it together, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about movies, and this was really cool. Thank you for joining the Blondie couch.
Oh, absolutely.
And thank you for coming. And I dare say this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Yeah.
What a way to finish off that glass. Oh, I'm taking the rest of that home with me.
Yes. I'm now regretting offering that. Being nice is sometimes you
could
regret
have
being
kept
nice.
that. Yeah,
I could have.
This could have just been your wine.
I didn't. Yeah.
This could have been your day. Just.
But congratulations, you
Yeah.
got married. There we go.
Thank you so
you get
much.
half a bottle of wine.
Yes, I love you, boo.
And David, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us out there, wherever you are. Thank you for coming on this magical journey with Blondie and I. And as always, I've been doing this in part for the Trevor Project fundraiser in honor of a friend and in honor of everyone we've lost in the past few years and beyond, and just sort of trying to remember like what talking to people is like supposed to be like, and connecting with people, and just this is what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about movies and taking it way too seriously or not, and having a glass of wine.
Yeah,
I don't know.
shooting the shit, so to speak.
Oh yeah, we love shooting the shit. And so, Blondie, what about you? Do you like it? That was the exact response I expected.
Yeah.
And I think a couple audience members have that same face right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I will see you at the next phase of the moon for day 30, the penultimate episode, where we will be talking about Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man 2020. It is on HBO Max. Elizabeth Moss. I will be talking about it with my dear friend Denise Cabanella. And
The world's top Scientologist.
Yes, exactly. No,
Elizabeth Moss.
Oh, okay, yes. I thought you were talking about Denise. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Elizabeth Moss.
I don't know. She might be.
Yeah, not yet. They haven't taken her yet.
Not to yuck somebody's yum, but you know.
And yeah, that is on HBO Max. Join us for tomorrow. We're almost there. We're almost there. He's tired of it. I'm not. This gave me strength. David gave me strength. Fulci gave me strength. And I will see you at the next phase of the moon. Let's howl at the moon for the friends we miss. The friends we wish were here to see this.